Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam. Today I want to touch on a subject that has been playing in my mind lately. And it has to do with the notion of winning and losing and the use that we can make of our losses to cultivate a better mind and cultivate a more conscious level of mind. And for this video, I thought I would take what you could call a three-level approach. And it's something that came to mind rather explicitly after several of these videos that I've done, in which I love to compare what you could call the unawakened state of mind, which I would define as the youngster, then compared it to conventional wisdom, and I will call that the grandma, right? And then the perennial philosophy, or the what you could call the sage level of wisdom, which we could call the Buddha, right? So we could talk about youngsters, grandmas, and Buddhas, and how each of them would approach the topic of winning and losing. And hopefully that'll give us some context into a couple of notions. One of them is that wisdom is something that is a continuum and can grow. And what is considered wide or appropriate or applicable at a certain level is the same thing that prevents us from growing towards the next level. So needless to say that in the context of the topic of winning and losing, the youngster plays the archetype of the hero, if not the fool, right? So it's typical hero warrior type of archetypal energy, and we are in essence chasing the win. Right, so we are trying to prevent loss at all cost, and we define ourselves as those who are embarked upon a journey of winning and acquisition and growth. That's fine, right? So that needs to be a stage that we go through, that we learn in order to make sure that we can take care of ourselves on a practical level and the rest of it. But as life starts to pummel us with resistance, if you will, or with circumstances that are counter to our wishes and desires, and they are in opposition to the way that we want things to pan out, we come into quite a bit of friction, and that archetypal hero is faced with its own limitations, right? Now, the reason I really wanted to make the grandma level explicit in this video is because grandma level wisdom, when it comes to making the most out of our losses, would have to do with, in essence, learning to be a good loser and to, in essence, take it in the chin and come to realize that we can't always get our way, right? That sort of conventional wisdom says you can't always get what you want, right? That's the conventional level there. When taken to a very high degree, as a certain quality starts to arise, which is a very important quality, and it's a quality that I think is worth highlighting, because it's a quality that when it comes to self-cultivation and awakening is very, very important, which I've not mentioned explicitly before. That quality is the quality of forbearance. And I didn't Google the meaning of forbearance, but if I had to share my understanding of forbearance, it is the capacity to withstand discomfort, whether that is physical, emotional, or mental discomfort, perhaps spiritual discomfort, if there is such a thing, and to not react or lose our center in the face of discomfort, not to turn bitter, not to turn violent, not to turn desperate, not to turn nihilistic or lose hope. In other words, not to, if you pardon my French, not to lose our shit, right? So to simply contend with the vicissitudes of life, and to do so with good grace and good and a constructive and decent attitude. That is a quality that grows over time. It's a quality that needs to be cultivated, learned, cultivated, and really practiced. It typically doesn't come natural. I can say that it has certainly not come natural to me. I'm someone who's a little bit hedonistic and comfortable. And therefore, when things go sideways, I notice that forbearance is often lacking, right? So, and yet, if we talk about grandma level wisdom, an advanced grandma, a good wise grandma will tell you that you need to have forbearance in life. You need to develop that ability to simply roll with the punches and to get up and simply keep going. However, and this is an important point, even the wisest grandma is not necessarily a Buddha. And I think it's interesting, if nothing else out of curiosity, to know what the difference is between those two. And I believe that as good as forbearance is, or the desire to keep a fighting spirit, which is less of a surrender and more of a kind of yang type energy of saying, I'll keep fighting until the end. So whether it is persistence or forbearance, they are both still only yin or yang in their quality. They are not Tai Chi, right? So they are only representing one pole of the equation that we want to embody. And one of the downfalls of forbearance is that it could become a bit passive, right? We simply become really good at taking pain, if not a martyr altogether, for example, right? And so then the question becomes: so what can we learn from the attitude of forbearance, the learning that things won't always go our way, and how can we use that to go to the next level, which is not some sort of insipid compromise with life, if we want to call it that, or a kind of, such is life, and I don't know, a little bit of a kind of defeatist or a compromise type of view, because compromises are of the mind, of course. They're on the level of mind only. And that's where I believe that the quality of clarity comes into play. In other words, we want to come and not only understand that life doesn't always go our way, but we want to thoroughly investigate what is it within us that wants life to go our way and which feels slighted or offended or disappointed or sad or hopeless or victimized or angry, frustrated whenever things don't go our way. Because forbearance stops at understanding that externals are imperfect. And that's true, and that understanding goes a very long way, right? It's definitely way, way beyond the winner or warrior or hero archetype of the youngster. But as I said, even the wisest grandma is not necessarily a Buddha per se. And I believe it has to do with compromise being made at the level of mind and simply accepting life's shit and then you die type of thing, or yeah, life is tough, right? That's as far as forbearance goes if applied in isolation. But what about the immersive beauty of non-duality, for example, right? And what about the opening of the heart and all those kind of things that we are taught by the sages? And that's where the clarification of our subconscious tendencies, hang-ups, and the rest of that which sits inside becomes an additional element, right? So a grandma is someone who goes very, very far in allowing life to mature her or him, a grandpa, right? Like that sort of elder level wisdom is someone who becomes good at having life mature them. But that's not a systematic cultivation of the mind. That is waiting for external circumstances to hit us and then we dance with them as they come, right? The systematic cultivation of the mind, so really going into a systematic spiritual endeavor or psychoactive, psychosomatic endeavor, if you will, is an accelerated maturation process in which, as described in some of the yogic scriptures, we can go to several thousand lifetimes by entering discomfort, clarifying the shadow, and doing these kind of things in a much more methodical and dedicated type of way. So that's the difference between the elder and the sage. And so we've talked about several of these elements here. We've talked about embodiment, we've talked about the regulation of the nervous system and all that kind of good stuff. Ultimately, without forbearance, you cannot do this because you will be inclined to distract yourself away from discomfort. Okay? So forbearance is a precondition for sagehood, but it is a necessary but not sufficient condition to make it there. And part of this was then the title of the video, Don't Let Your Losses Go to Waste. On the level of the youngster, the youngster would lose and ask him or herself, how can I do it better so that I can win next time around? The elder would lose and go, part of life is about losing, learning from my mistakes, and accepting that I'm not perfect and that sometimes I will simply lose, right? And that's the next level. But the level of the sage is I lost, and now inside of me there are affects and pulls and turmoils, or all manner of things can be felt, such as missing out, worthlessness, hopelessness, all manner of things, all manner of internal things have become clarified for me thanks to that loss. I am able to feel parts of my neurology because of that loss. There's an area between, say, my throat and my heart that I didn't even know existed. And now, thanks to that grief that I'm feeling because I lost somebody, for example, I can feel that part of me. It's a completely new part of me. I was completely unaware that it was there. Now it's flashing up. It's flaring up. I can feel it. Yeah. And, or, I made a fool out of myself, or I feel, incapable of tackling a certain problem, and there's a void in the pit of my stomach. Well, that's completely new. So what the sage does is the sage doesn't stop at accepting that life sometimes hit you. The sage co-opts the pain and discomfort and uses it as information and energetic input for an alchemical transformation of who he or she is. I've talked about alchemy in a few videos ago. If you haven't watched that, then I invite you to check out the video about Who's an Alchemist in the channel, in which I essentially share the notion that an alchemist is someone who co-opts discomfort in order to transmute it into create an alchemical reaction in which discomfort, pain, and all these kind of things are used as fuel for transformation. So not letting our losses go to waste can be understood on many levels. And usually grandma level or elderly level conventional wisdom would say, oh, you shouldn't let your losses go to waste. There's something to be learned from it, right? Like, oh, learn how to be better, or learn how to accept that things don't always go your way. Yes, that is fine, right? Like, there's definitely nothing wrong with that. And some of us still have a long way to go even to accept that. But for the level of the sage, the external occurrence and the practicalities that it comes with are a basic level of understanding and knowledge. But what we really want to go for is, why is this bothersome to me? And in what flavor does that bother come? And what does it say about my sense of self and my sense of how reality ought to be, that I may feel okay with the personality and the identity that I have defined for myself. So there you have it. That's today's video in essence, right? It's about this notion of how for the sage, losses present a unique opportunity to learn about our internal system and how to cultivate it and transmute pain into openings and into the clarification of the of our psychosomatics. And also a bit of a video also about the quality of forbearance, which interestingly enough plays an important role in all levels of consciousness, but becomes quite crucial the higher we go. If that is absent, we're going to definitely hit a wall, because we must learn how to contend with discomfort and eventually how to co-opt it. Right. So there you have it. Very curious what you guys make of this one. And if you think that the content is worth liking, sharing, and subscribing to, then I would be thrilled if you do so. I'll be back with more pretty soon. Thanks for listening. Cheerio and bye-bye.